you know.
Well, that's the thing. I think the thing that I struggled with for such a long time was that, you know, I had such an intense relationship with this woman. And it was so great at the beginning, you know, and she was my everything. And then sort of to be at a point where I thought, well, you know, you've gone to court to get a sheriff to serve me papers. And how's it come to this? How can someone that I was so incredibly close to for such a long time just suddenly be a different person? And at least from my perspective, you know, not have any empathy for what I was going through. And, you know, at various times I was very suicidal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and never actually had that opportunity to reconcile with her either. There wasn't even like, you know, there was no make-up sex, there was no going to a counsellor, you know, for one last ditch attempt at getting back together. She agreed to one counselling session to help me accept that it was over. That was the condition of her going to that counselling session. So it wasn't there wasn't ever an opportunity for us to get back together.
No.
And it's so final. And what was particularly hard for me was that when we separated, she said there was no one else involved. And a few weeks after the separation, I was living with my mother, and I went up to the shop that she was working in, which wasn't far away, and because I was going to Thailand for the Asian Cup, because at the time I was a football writer for SBS, and I rang her shop. I really just wanted to know where some luggage was that I could take with me to Bangkok, and no one answered the phone. So I thought, oh fuck it, I'll just walk up the road. And I walked into the shop, and this man is kissing my wife over the counter, and it was just like a knife in my heart. I've never been so bereft in my life. I was just completely broke down. I couldn't even move, and my ex had to call my father to come and get me because I just physically couldn't move. And that's all in the book. Yeah. But that's when I knew someone else was involved. And you know, it's just a terrible thing to kind of have to walk in on. And he ran off. You know, I didn't get to confront him. And then as I write in Laid Bare, my daughter was with me one night. We were sort of just lying back in bed, and she was only 3 years old at the time. She said, "Oh, Daddy, Mummy's sleeping with a man tonight." And I thought, oh Christ. And of course I wasn't thinking straight, and I told her to get in the car, drove around to her house, buzzed on the side gate. She wouldn't let me in, so I jumped over the fence, had my daughter with me. You know, I shouldn't have been there, but you don't think straight in those sort of situations. And sort of banged on the door. She let me in, and I knew he was in there, and went out to the back of the house, and he was behind the door. And just as my hand was touching the doorknob, the sort of door burst open, and he had me in a headlock. Same guy from the shop, and I'm getting choked in front of my daughter and my ex-wife, and I was sort of, you know, trying to grab his hair, get some purchase on him, but he was like strangling me with his forearms, and blacked out. And I woke up in the garden with my glasses smashed, sort of my mouth in the dirt, and I sort of come to, and my mother is sort of standing over the top of me, because she'd been called obviously, and she says, "At least you know now, son." And an ambulance driver turned up and called me into the cab of the ambulance and said, you know, I'm not going to give you anything, mate, but you know, I know what you're going through. You know, I was in exactly the same situation, and I even went out and I got a gun, and I was going to kill the bastard. You know, but I'm so glad I didn't, and you're going to get over it. You don't need any drugs from me tonight. You just need to go home and sleep. And I did. I went home with my mother. Police turn up. They're going to charge me with trespass. I was going to get an AVO taken out of me. Just the worst night of my life. But at least, you know, the truth was out there from that moment. And I knew what I was dealing with. There was so much, I guess, dishonesty. So I guess my recovery started from that point.